The Sudan Crisis. It reminds me of an old African adage that says, when two elephants fight, it is always the surrounding grass that suffers. Violence broke out recently, primarily in Khartoum, the Sudanese capital, between rival military factions battling for control of Africa's third largest country. The two most powerful men in the country are at the center of this dispute. General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, the head of the Sudanese armed forces, and in effect, the country's president, and his deputy, General Mohamed Hamdan Dagalo, better known as Emedit. He is the leader of the paramilitary group, the Rapid Support Forces, also known as RSF. And within matters of days, at least over 500 people are dead and hundreds others injured, including civilians caught in the crossfire. So what led to the current situation? Because until recently, both generals were allies. They worked together in 2019 to overthrow Sudan's brutal dictator Omar al-Bashir, who ruled over the country for 3 decades. For a clearer understanding of the genesis of this current hostility, we have to dive down to the facts of the matter, because, like we always say on this program, facts matter. Okay guys, welcome back. If today is your first time watching us, then we heartily welcome you to the Facts of the Matter media channel. We are an informative channel that offers objective analysis of news, politics, and current affairs. Our aim is to inform and empower people with accurate, in-depth, and compelling content that upholds the value of truth. And for those watching us for the second, third, or even fourth time, the question is, why haven't you subscribe and join the Facts of the Matter media family? Please go ahead and hit the subscription button down below, and don't forget to also like and share this video to others. You see guys, that is the only way we can grow this channel together. So back to the issue at hand. We were talking about the current crisis in Sudan. You see, the truth is, since Sudan had its independence from Britain in 1956, the country has not been a stranger to conflicts, military interventions, and even war. The country underwent a civil war which eventually led to the separation of South Sudan from Sudan in 2011. And between 1989 and 2019, Sudan experienced a 30-year-long military dictatorship led by Omar al-Bashir. However, in 2019, after massive pro-democracy protests, Omar al-Bashir regime was eventually toppled by the two generals who are now opposing each other. That coup, a power-sharing government was formed, the Sovereign Council. It is a civilian military partnership to steer the country towards democracy. The Sovereign Council was headed by General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, the head of the Sudanese armed forces, with General Emedit, the head of the Rapid Support Force, as his deputy. There is something to understand by General Emedit. Emedit actually started out as a camel trader when he joined the Janjaweed militia group, where he rose through the ranks before being recruited by Omar al-Bashir in 2013 to form the Rapid Support Forces as a paramilitary group which fought on behalf of the Sudanese government during the war in Darfur and was responsible for atrocities against civilians. Its actions in Darfur, according to Human Rights Watch, qualify as crime against humanity. Over the years, Emedit and his Rapid Support Forces have become very powerful. In fact, Emedit basically control a large chunk of the Sudanese economy, especially the gold mining operations. Anyway, after the coup and the formation of a transitional government, the plan was for it to run Sudan for a few years and oversee a transition to a completely civilian-run government. But in 2021, General al-Burhan and his second-in-command, Emedit, dissolved the Sovereign Council, a move many still considered was a coup, and the two generals basically put themselves fully in charge of the country. However, following another massive pro-democracy protest, plans for returning to civilian rule were finally reached late last year. Under the framework of the agreement reached last December between the army, the RSF, and Sudan's civilian pro-democracy forces, the army had agreed to return to its barracks and get out of politics. The RSF, on its own part, was supposed to be absorbed and integrated into the regular army. But the internationally backed agreement was delayed as negotiating parties failed to conclude discussions. In fact, the final agreement was due to be signed in early April, but was postponed over disagreements on the timeline for integrating the RSF into the regular army. General Al-Burhan proposed a 2-year timeline, but this was utterly rejected by Emedit, claiming that he needed more time before his forces could be finally integrated into the regular army. These disagreements eventually culminated into the current hostilities. Basically, the current fighting broke out between the army and the RSF as a result of negotiations breaking down over integrating the two forces ahead of the intended restoration of civilian rule. There was disagreement over which general would be subordinate to the other and how quickly the RSF would be incorporated into the Sudanese military. They also disagree on how to restore civilian rule to Sudan. General Emedit has accused General Al-Burhan's government of being radical Islamists and said that he and the RSF were fighting for the people of Sudan to ensure the democratic progress for which they have so long yearned. Many find this message hard to believe, given the brutal track record of the RSF. The RSF forces have often been accused of ethnic cleansing, which we mentioned earlier in their operations in Darfur. So in an escalating power struggle, fighting eventually erupted in mid-April. After months of increasing tension, both groups, the Sudanese armed forces and the RSF, have blamed each other for violence breaking out. The Sudanese armed forces have accused the RSF of illegal mobilization in the days before the conflict, something the army viewed as a threat. The RSF, on their part, has claimed that the army had tried to seize full power in a plot with some Omar al-Bashir's loyalists. And since the violence began, residents of Khartoum have been told to stay inside. Food and water supplies have been running low. The bombing has hit key infrastructures like water pipes. Hospitals are running out of key supplies and struggling to cope. Successive efforts to establish a ceasefire initially failed, and most countries had to rush in to evacuate first their diplomats, then their citizens from Khartoum. The World Health Organization estimated that within days, more than 500 people are dead and thousands injured, though medical NGOs in Sudan say that the true toll is much higher. However, on Monday the 24th April, a 72-hour ceasefire between the two sides took effect at midnight. Since then, there have been reports of sporadic shootings here and there, but on the large scale, the ceasefire seems to be holding up. Hefty negotiations are going on to create a lasting peace. All in all, the crisis in Sudan urgently needs to be dissolved before it erodes into a larger civil war. Sudan borders 7 countries and sits between Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Ethiopia, and Africa's volatile Sahel region. In fact, 5 of Sudan's neighbors, Ethiopia, Chad, Central African Republic, Libya, and South Sudan, have also faced political upheaval or fighting themselves in recent years. And both generals need to put their ego trip aside and put the interests of the country and people first. Because if the ongoing conflict is not swiftly abated, it risks fanning regional tensions and could create displacement spillover that could affect the demography and security situation of neighboring countries, and that is the fact of the matter. Okay guys, thanks for watching this video. And as you know, on this program, we don't take sides. We address issues and ask hard questions. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And most importantly, share and subscribe. Looking forward to seeing you next week on another episode of Facts of the Matter. And until then, please stay safe.